Typically, when rhetoricians perform a visual rhetoric analysis, they choose artwork, advertisements, movies, and spatial design as their subjects of focus. There are many good reasons for this. Analyzing the visual aspects of media allow viewers to focus their critical gaze onto the unseen artifacts of everyday life. Skateboarding films, for instance, have yet to be viewed by scholars through the lens of rhetorical analysis. Part of this reason is due to skateboarding's confusing jargon. Most readers don't want to be bothered to know what a backside Smith grind is in order to have a rich discussion of skateboarding. Luckily, readers don't need to know very much about trick names in order to have a rich discussion of skateboarding, because it's far more interesting to talk about how skateboarders interact with public space, private property, law enforcement, and pedestrians. One video that exemplifies skateboarders' relationship with public and private space is the GX1000 video by Ryan Gershel. Gershel's film is 100% street skateboarding, or in other words, it is only performed on spaces not sanctioned for skateboarding. Most of the skating in the video is filmed in San Francisco and New York City, but it is also done in other places such as Japan and Spain. Regardless of where the GX1000 crew is, the skateboarders treat everything in their surroundings as an obstacle to be maneuvered, specifically stairs, ledges, rails, hills, traffic, and even pedestrians. Private and public property is transformed beyond its intended use, and in this way, skateboarders have an adversarial relationship with their local environments. This video hopes to show how this relationship is defined in more detail while using the GX1000 video as its muse. The obstacles skateboarders destroy and transform, and the repurposing of public and private space as a playground both reflect skateboarding's ethos as countercultural. Let's check out the first 3 clips of the video to see how skateboarding is both transformative and destructive. In this first clip, Al Davis is shown pushing his skateboard at a high speed. Gershel follows Davis from a far distance with a Sony VX1000 camcorder equipped with a large fisheye lens. The effect of the lens causes the receiver's perspective to be warped as if they were seeing the world through a fishbowl. The fisheye also makes the subject of the footage take up most of the screen, even when they are only a few feet away from the camera. As Gershel gets closer to Davis, for instance, Davis's body begins to take up most of the screen as he floats into the marble ledge at the San Francisco courthouse. Davis is emphasized as the subject of focus, while the environment around him is transmuted to the viewer as an obstacle. The fact that everything is an obstacle is then communicated to the viewer as Davis ollies over a sleeping homeless man into the street. Gershel rests his focus on the sleeping homeless man, making him fill up most of the screen. By making this the first clip, Gershel is explicitly showing the audience that every element of the city is a site for skateboarding. Admittedly, jumping over a sleeping homeless person is very disrespectful, especially when the audience understands that the same technology that's used to stop skateboarders makes it harder for people without homes to sleep in public spaces. In the same clip, the viewer might notice little metal rectangles surrounding the edges of the ledge that Davis rides on. These metal rectangles are colloquially referred to by skaters as skate stoppers because of their ability to prevent skaters from grinding on various surfaces. Savvy viewers familiar with city design, however, might notice that skate stoppers, or city design used to stop skateboarding, is also used by urban planners and business owners to make it difficult for the homeless to exist. One clear example of this is bus benches with sectioned off seating. While these benches make it easy for multiple users to sit without making contact with each other, they also prevent the homeless from laying down on the benches. My point here is to illustrate that many of the technologies used to create borders between public and private space have multiple purposes. It isn't a coincidence that these technologies are targeted at people misusing space, even if the aforementioned misuse is finding a warm place to sleep or a spot to skate. Remember, when I say that skateboarders are transforming space, I mean they're recontextualizing it, or they're changing how the space could be used. In the second clip, Gershel cuts to an unnamed hooded man blasting the name of the video, GX1000, onto a large wall with black paint about 6 feet tall. Gershel, still filming with a fisheye, holds the viewer's focus in one place so they are able to see the entire tag. The graffiti itself has jagged letters and slightly drips down the wall. As the graffiti writer sprays, his face is blurred by the video to hide his identity. The video is hyper-aware that graffiti is an illicit and illegal act, but decides to present it anyway. By positioning these first two clips side by side, Gershel is undoubtedly making a comparison between skateboarding and graffiti. At least in the literal sense of the word, both can be seen as forms of vandalism. That is, they can both be seen as a way to transform and destroy public space. Graffiti transforms a wall by making it a site for self-expression. Graffiti artists throw themselves up into a wall to make themselves seen in spite of local law enforcement and private property rights. On the other hand, skateboarders transform mundane objects into sites for exploration and play. As mentioned earlier, ledges, curbs, rails, and stairs are just a few examples of objects that skateboarders transform. To be clear, by transform, I am referring to a process of recontextualization of a given technology or space. So in other words, when I say skateboarders transform private or public space, I mean they are recontextualizing and even acting in spite of the intended uses of public and private property. The graffiti isn't an offshoot either. Check out how Go, Enam, and MQ spray on the wall. The third clip also illustrates this tension when Brian De La Torre comes into focus after he slides on a ledge from the right of the screen. Gershel follows him while keeping him in the viewer's main focus as he quickly ollies or jumps with his skateboard onto a police car into the street. Gershel abruptly slides the viewer's gaze across the text of the car reading NYPD Police to show the viewer that this is a skateboarding video where private property and law enforcement are not respected. In many ways, the police can be seen as a symbol for authority. The police are the enforcers of legal codes and ultimately decide what is and what isn't allowed in a given space. Although skateboarders hardly get arrested for skateboarding, it would be a stretch to say that skateboarders are allowed to use the space for any reason. In fact, San Francisco skateboarding law, quote, prohibits skateboarding on any city street at any time, on any sidewalk in any business district at any time, end quote, thus making most of the GX1000 video completely illegal. I believe this is worth noting because it further illustrates skateboarding's adversarial relationship with public space. Skateboarding is only allowed in sanctioned spaces such as skate parks. However, despite San Francisco skateboarding law and consistently being hassled by security guards, property owners, and the police, the GX1000 crew persists in redefining public space on their own terms, even making police vehicles an obstacle. These three clips played in sequence are important in establishing the video's transformative and destructive ethos. When Davis ollies over a homeless man, or when De La Torre jumps over a police car, the video is subtly telling the viewer that everything, including people, is an obstacle. By positioning these three clips early in the video, Gershel is ostensibly comparing and contrasting skateboarding and graffiti. Namely, graffiti is presented as synonymous with skateboarding in that they both destroy and transform public and private space. Or more specifically, just like how the graffiti tag can be seen as devaluing somebody else's property, it can also be seen as adding to or transforming that property. Gershel presents skateboarding in a similar light. Skateboarding chips concrete and leaves marks on walls, but also transforms the space. The common adage in skateboarding is that skateboarders see the world differently. Often, this is not understood as literal, however, it does reflect how skateboarding is transformative. Much like how graffiti writers view a blank wall as a canvas for artistic expression, the skateboarders in the GX1000 crew transform the urban environment into a space for exploration and play.